A folktale of wisdom and redemption. In the prosperous village of Adaeze, there lived a wealthy woman named Mama Chike, whose beauty in her youth was only matched by the bitterness in her heart. She had one son, Chike, whom she loved with a possessive, suffocating love that left no room for any other woman in his life. Chike was a handsome and successful trader, admired by all the young women in the village and beyond. But his mother, Mama Chike, had driven away every woman who ever came close to her son. She had a wicked plan for each bride that entered her compound. The first wife Chike married was Amata, a gentle soul with a heart of gold. On her wedding day, she came to the family compound with joy and hope, ready to be a good wife and daughter-in-law. But Mama Chike had other plans. "Welcome, my daughter," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "In this house, we have traditions. Every morning, you must fetch water from the stream at the edge of the dark forest. You must fill 20 pots before the cock crows twice." Amaka's eyes widened. The dark forest stream was 3 miles away and the path was treacherous, but she was determined to please her new family. Every morning, Amaka would wake at midnight and journey to the stream. She would carry the heavy pot on her head, making countless trips. But Mama Chike had made a secret arrangement with the village water spirits, and no matter how hard Amaka worked, the pot would mysteriously crack or leak before she reached home. "You lazy girl," Mama Chike would scream. "You cannot even complete a simple task. What kind of wife are you?" She would deny Amaka food, calling her incompetent in front of the whole compound. Chike, who was often away on trading trips, knew nothing of his mother's cruelty. Whenever he was home, Mama Chike would be sweet as honey to Amaka, only to turn vicious the moment he left. After 6 months of this torture, Amaka fell ill from exhaustion and starvation. Her family came to take her home, and the marriage ended in disgrace. Mama Chike told everyone that Amaka was lazy and unsuitable for her son. The second wife, Ngozi the Beautiful. A year later, Chike married Ngozi, the most beautiful girl in the neighboring village. She was known for her grace and her skill in cooking. Finally, a worthy daughter-in-law, Mama Chike announced at the wedding. But in her heart, she was already plotting. This time, Mama Chike's torture was different. She would wake Ngozi at dawn and give her impossible tasks in the kitchen. "Cook me a soup with 7 different meats, but use no salt, no pepper, and no seasoning, yet it must taste better than the king's feast," she would command. When Ngozi produced meals that any normal person would find delicious, Mama Chike would spit out the food. "This is pig slop. My son deserves better than this." She would then cook her own meals and feed only Chike, telling him that Ngozi's cooking was so terrible that she had to protect him from food poisoning. She served Ngozi only stale food and leftovers that even the dogs wouldn't eat. Mama Chike also spread rumors in the village that Ngozi was barren and had used witchcraft to trap Chike into marriage. She would invite the village women for meetings and whisper these lies, slowly destroying Ngozi's reputation. The beautiful Ngozi began to wither like a flower without water. Her spirit broke, and after 8 months, she ran away in the middle of the night, leaving only a note for Chike. She couldn't bear to tell him the truth about his mother, whom she loved dearly. Chike was heartbroken. 2 failed marriages had left him confused and desperate. When he met Ifeoma, a hard-working farmer's daughter known throughout the land for her strength and dedication, he thought surely this marriage would work. Ifeoma was no stranger to hard work. She could plow a field faster than 3 men, harvest crops with incredible speed, and manage a household with efficiency. Mama Chike saw this and knew she had to be more creative. "My daughter," Mama Chike said sweetly, on Ifeoma's first day, "I am getting old and can no longer manage the family farm. This responsibility now falls to you."
She gave Ifeoma not just the family farm, but also took control of all the farm hands, dismissing them one by one. Soon, Ifeoma was working the entire 10-acre farm alone. Every day, Ifeoma would work from sunrise to sunset, planting, weeding, and harvesting. But Mama Chike would secretly go behind her and uproot the crops, then blame Ifeoma for poor farming skills. "The farm is dying under your care," she would wail to the village elders. "My son married a woman who claims to be a farmer but cannot even grow a single yam." When harvest time came, Mama Chike would sell all the crops that Ifeoma had managed to grow and keep the money, giving Ifeoma nothing. She told Chike that the harvest was poor because of Ifeoma's incompetence. Ifeoma endured this for nearly a year, but when she became pregnant and Mama Chike began to make her do even more strenuous work, hoping she would lose the baby, Ifeoma's family intervened and took her away. The pregnancy was too precious to risk. Chike was devastated. 3 marriages had failed, and he couldn't understand why. Mama Chike comforted him, saying, "My son, it is not your fault. These modern women are not like women of my time. They are weak, lazy, and ungrateful. But don't worry, your mother will find you a proper wife." 2 years passed. Chike had given up on marriage, pouring himself into his trading business and traveling constantly to avoid the emptiness in his home. But Mama Chike couldn't rest. She wanted her son married so that she could continue her reign of terror, proving to herself over and over again that no woman was good enough for her precious boy. In a distant village, there lived a young woman named Adaora. She was the 7th daughter of a wise chief who had raised all his daughters to be strong, intelligent, and cunning. Adaora was special though. She had learned not just from her father, but from her grandmother, a former priestess who had taught her the ways of wisdom, patience, and strategy. Adaora was not the most beautiful, nor the most gentle, nor the most hardworking in the traditional sense, but she had something none of the other wives had. She could see through deception, and she knew how to play the long game. When Mama Chike sent matchmakers to Adaora's village seeking a new wife for Chike, Adaora's grandmother smiled knowingly. "This is the marriage you've been waiting for, my child, but it will not be easy. I have heard of Mama Chike. She is a woman who has forgotten that cruelty always comes back to visit its master." Adaora said, "Grandmother, why should I marry into such a house?" "Because, my child, some people enter our lives not for us to serve them, but for us to teach them. That woman needs to learn a lesson before she destroys her own son's happiness forever. You are the only one strong enough and wise enough to teach her." Adaora agreed, but on one condition: she would observe the household for 1 full month before the wedding, disguised as a distant cousin visiting the village. Adaora arrived in Mama Chike's village wearing simple clothes and calling herself Ada, a poor relative looking for work. She found employment as a helper in the compound of Mama Chike's neighbor. For 1 month, she watched and learned everything. She saw how Mama Chike was sweet and loving whenever Chike was home, praising him constantly and cooking his favorite meals. She saw how she attended every village meeting, presented herself as a devoted mother and pillar of the community, and gave generously to the poor, but only in public. She also saw the truth, how Mama Chike would curse and complain about Chike when he was away, calling him foolish for not being able to keep a wife. She saw how she gossiped viciously about other people's children while pretending to be concerned for them. She noticed how she kept a secret stash of money that she had stolen from the family farm and Chike's trading profits, money she planned to use to control him forever. But most importantly, Adaora discovered Mama Chike's greatest fear. She was terrified of being alone, of being sent away to live with distant relatives, of being forgotten. Her cruelty came from a desperate need to remain indispensable in her son's life. After the month of observation, Adaora returned home and agreed to the marriage. The wedding was grand. Mama Chike played the role of the joyous mother-in-law perfectly, dancing and celebrating, telling everyone how happy she was to finally have a proper daughter-in-law. But Adaora saw through the performance. She smiled politely and waited. On the first morning after the wedding, Mama Chike came to Adaora's room before dawn with a wicked smile. "My dear daughter," she said in a voice dripping with false sweetness, "I hope you slept well. Now let me tell you about the traditions of this household." She proceeded to give Adaora an impossible list of tasks: fetch 20 pots of water from the dark forest stream, cook a 7-course meal with no proper ingredients, clean the entire compound including the roof, hand wash all the clothes in the household, and tend to the 10-acre farm all before noon. Adaora listened patiently, nodding and saying, "Yes, ma'am."
Ma, thank you, Mama. Mama Chiki was surprised. The other wives had shown fear or hesitation. This one seemed almost eager. She dismissed the thought and went back to bed, already planning how she would punish Adaora for her inevitable failure. But Adaora didn't rush to do any of the tasks. Instead, she went back to sleep. At noon, Mama Chiki stormed into the compound, expecting to find chaos and incompletion. Instead, she found Adaora sitting calmly under the mango tree, braiding her hair. "What is the meaning of this?" Mama Chiki shrieked. "Have you done nothing I asked?" Adaora looked up with innocent eyes. "Oh, Mama, forgive me. I thought about all the tasks you gave me, and I realized something. You must be the wisest woman in this village." "What?" Mama Chike was confused. Her anger momentarily paused. "Yes, Mama. You see, I am young and foolish. If I had attempted those tasks and failed, I would have brought shame to this household. But you, in your wisdom, were clearly testing me to see if I was smart enough to recognize impossible tasks. A foolish girl would have tried and failed, but I am wise enough to know that I should come to you, my experienced mother-in-law, and ask you to teach me how you accomplish such tasks when you were a young bride. Please, Mama, show me how it's done. I want to learn from the best." Mama Chike's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She had never actually done any of these tasks herself. They were designed to be impossible. I am too old now," she stammered. "Oh, but Mama, you are still strong and beautiful. Surely you can show me at least one task. Perhaps fetching the 20 pots of water. I heard you did this every day when you were a young bride. The village still speaks of your strength and dedication." Mama Chike found herself trapped. If she admitted she had never done these tasks, she would expose her cruelty. If she refused to demonstrate, she would appear weak. The whole conversation had happened in the compound, where several neighbors could overhear. I will discuss this later," Mama Chike muttered and stormed off. That evening, when Chike came home, Mama Chike tried to complain about Adaora's laziness. But before she could speak, Adaora approached them both with a sweet smile. "My husband, your mother is truly the most wonderful woman. Today she gave me a list of tasks to help me learn the ways of this household, but I was overwhelmed by my own inadequacy. I asked her to teach me by example, but she is being too humble. She says she's too old, but I can see she is still strong. Perhaps tomorrow you could help me convince her to show me her wisdom. I want to be just like her when I am her age." Chike looked at his mother with admiration. "Mama, it is good of you to be so patient with Adaora. She seems eager to learn." Mama Chike forced a smile, but inside she was fuming. This girl was clever. Over the next few weeks, Adaora employed this strategy repeatedly. Every impossible task became an opportunity to publicly praise Mama Chike's supposed wisdom and skills, while subtly pointing out that these were tasks no reasonable person could complete. The village women began to whisper. They had heard Adaora's praises and were now looking at Mama Chike differently. Is it true that she used to fetch 20 pots of water from the dark forest? That seems dangerous and unnecessary. But Adaora's real strategy was more profound. She studied Mama Chike's patterns and began to mirror them back to her in unexpected ways. When Mama Chike criticized Adaora's cooking in private, Adaora would accept the criticism and then invite the village women for a cooking demonstration. She would prepare food exactly as Mama Chike had taught her, which was designed to fail. And when it turned out poorly, she would say, "Oh dear, I followed Mama Chike's recipe exactly. Perhaps I misunderstood her wisdom. Mama, would you show us the correct way?" Mama Chike found herself forced to either cook properly, which would contradict her sabotage, or refuse and then expose her own incompetence.
When Mama Chike tried to turn the village women against Adaora with gossip, Adaora would approach those same women and say, "Mama Chike told me such wonderful things about you. She said you are the kindest woman in the village. I hope we can be friends as she suggested." The women, confused because Mama Chike had actually been spreading rumors about them, began to realize that Mama Chike was a gossip and a liar. The real turning point came with the farm situation. Mama Chike, following her pattern, dismissed all the farm hands and told Adaora that she must manage the 10-acre farm alone. Adaora agreed cheerfully and went to work. But she also did something clever. She invited all the village women to come and help her, making it a community farming event. She provided food and entertainment, turning farm work into a social gathering. My mother-in-law taught me that a wife must manage the farm alone to prove her worth, but she also taught me that a wise woman knows how to build community. So I am managing it alone by bringing the community together. Is this not brilliant? The women laughed and walked, but they also whispered, why would Mama Chike set such a cruel standard? Their own mothers-in-law never demanded such things.
When planting season ended, Adiora did something unprecedented. She kept detailed records of every seed planted, every area cultivated, and every person who helped. She made these records public and even invited the village chief to witness the farm's progress. When Mama Chike tried to sabotage the crops by uprooting them at night, she was caught by a night watchman that Adiora had quietly hired, using money from her own family. The watchman didn't confront Mama Chike directly, but reported to Adiora. Instead of exposing her mother-in-law, Adiora used this information differently. She went to Mama Chike privately. "Mama, I noticed that some of our crops are being damaged at night. I think there might be wild animals, or perhaps someone in the village is jealous of our success. I wanted to ask your advice. Should we set traps, or should we hire a watchman? What did you do when you faced this problem?" Mama Chike was stunned. The girl knew but wasn't confronting her directly. She realized she had been caught. Perhaps we should hire a watchman," Mama Chike muttered, avoiding eye contact. "Oh, I already did, Mama, and I told him to be extra vigilant. He will report any suspicious activity to both of us. Isn't it wonderful to have such protection?" The message was clear. Adiora knew, and the sabotage would no longer work. Months passed, and Mama Chike found herself increasingly isolated. Every cruel trick she tried was either turned back on her or transformed into a public demonstration of Adiora's patience and wisdom. The village women, who had once pitied Chike for his failed marriages, now began to talk. The pieces were falling into place. 3 wives had left, all under mysterious circumstances, but this 4th wife seemed to be thriving despite similar treatment. What was different? One day, a group of village elders came to visit Chike. His mother was not home, and they asked to speak with him privately, along with Adiora. "My son, we must tell you something that has been on our hearts. Your previous marriages did not fail because the wives were inadequate. We have been watching, and we see now what we were too blind to see before. Your mother has been driving these women away." Chike was shocked. "That cannot be true. My mother loves me and only wants what's best for me." Adiora took his hand gently. "My husband, I did not want to be the one to tell you this, because I know how much you love your mother. But I have witnessed her actions toward me. She has asked me to do impossible things, tried to sabotage my work, and spread false rumors about me. But I understood something that your previous wives did not. She does not do this because she is evil. She does this because she is afraid." "Afraid? Of what?" "Of losing you, of being alone, of discovering that she is not as important to you as she thinks she needs to be." The elders nodded. "Your wife speaks wisdom beyond her years." When Mama Chike returned home that evening, she found her son waiting for her, his face a mixture of pain and determination. "Mama, we need to talk." "What is it, my son? Why did you drive away my wives?" Mama Chike's face went pale. "I don't know what you—" "Please, Mama, no more lies. The elders have told me. Adiora has told me. And now I want to hear the truth from you." Mama Chike looked around and saw Adiora standing in the doorway.
not with triumph, but with sadness in her eyes. She saw the elders, the neighbors, all watching. For the first time in decades, Mama Chike felt her carefully built walls crumbling. She sat down heavily and tears began to flow. "I was afraid," she whispered. "After your father died, you were all I had. I raised you alone, sacrificed everything for you. I was terrified that, when you married, you would forget about me, that I would become useless, unwanted, that your wife would turn you against me, and I would die alone. So you made sure no wife could stay," Chike said quietly. "I told myself I was protecting you, that these women weren't good enough, but the truth is, I was protecting myself." Adiara moved forward and, to everyone's surprise, knelt beside Mama Chike. "Mama, do you know why I stayed when the others left?" Mama Chike shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Because my grandmother taught me to see past people's actions to their pain. She told me that hurt people hurt people. You hurt those women because you yourself were hurting. And I decided that instead of running away or fighting back with cruelty, I would show you something different." "What?" "That you don't have to earn love through control. That you don't have to make others small to make yourself necessary. That there is enough room in Chike's heart for both a wife and a mother. But more importantly, that you have value beyond what you can do for your son." The next weeks were not easy. Mama Chike had to face the truth about herself and the pain she had caused. She met with each of her former daughters-in-law to apologize, though not all of them accepted immediately. Amaka was gracious and forgave her. Ngozi was still hurt but appreciated the gesture. Ifeoma was angry but eventually softened when Mama Chike offered to help support the child she had birthed, Chike's first child, whom he had never known about. Adiara worked patiently with Mama Chike, teaching her that being a mother-in-law could be a source of joy, not competition. She involved Mama Chike in decisions, asked for her advice, and actually listened, and slowly showed her that love multiplies rather than divides. Chike began to rebuild relationships with his former wives, ensuring that his children, Ifeoma had a daughter and Ngozi later revealed that she had also been pregnant when she left, knew their father. Mama Chike, to her surprise, found joy in being a grandmother without the need to control everything. The village watched this transformation with wonder. The woman who was so wicked, so controlling, slowly became softer. She began to use her intelligence and strength not to hurt others, but to help them. She started a program teaching young mothers-in-law how to welcome new wives into their homes with love rather than fear. 5 years later, Adiora sat under the same mango tree where she had first outwitted her mother-in-law. Mama Chike sat beside her, both of them watching their children play in the compound. Adiora's 3 children and Chike's other children from his previous marriages, who now visited regularly. "Adiora," Mama Chike said quietly, "I never thanked you properly." "For what, Mama?" "For not destroying me when you had the chance. You could have exposed me, humiliated me, driven me from this house. Instead, you showed me a path to redemption." Adiora smiled. "Mama, destroying you would have destroyed the man I love. You are a part of him. Besides, my grandmother taught me that the strongest revenge is not destruction, but transformation. I didn't want to defeat you. I wanted to free you." "Free me from what?" "From your own prison. You built walls of cruelty around yourself, thinking they would protect you, but they were actually keeping you trapped, alone, unable to experience real love. All I did was show you that the walls weren't necessary." Mama Chike took Adiora's hand. "You are wiser than I ever was." "No, Mama. You always had wisdom. You just forgot how to use it for good instead of harm. But it was always there, waiting to be remembered."